This is the Ramana Maharshi Self-Knowledge Satsang, a time for self-reflection and self-inquiry. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I have been blessed with years of deep teaching, so I do this satsang to bring this to you. The background image today is Ramana with a monkey. Ramana had a special relationship with animals of all kinds. They would approach him freely and he would interact with them. He would do things like save nuts from food he was offered and later give them to the squirrels that came to him. This quote tells of Ramana's attitude towards animals. It's a dialogue between Ramana and a devotee. The devotee asks, does one who has realized the self lose the sense of I? Ramana responded, absolutely. Devotee, then there is not difference between yourself and myself, that man over there, my servant, are all the same? Ramana, all are the same, including those monkeys. Devotee, but monkeys are not people. Are they not different? Ramana, they are exactly the same as people. All are the same in one consciousness. There are many stories of Ramana in animals. Here's one about Ramana and a monkey. When Bhagavan was living on the hill, a big monkey came one day when he was having his food and sat near him. Bhagavan was about to put a morsel of food into his own mouth, but when he saw the monkey, he gave it the morsel. The monkey took it, put it on the plate, and gave Bhagavan a square slap on the cheek. What do you mean, you fellow? Why are you angry? I gave you the first morsel, explained Bhagavan. Then he understood his mistake. It was a king monkey, and he had to be treated in the right royal manner. Bhagavan called for a separate leaf plate, and a full meal was served to the king, who ate it all with dignity and proudly went away. Now here are some more photos of Ramana with animals. This is Ramana with a squirrel on his hand. Here's Ramana with a white peacock visiting him. And this is Ramana with monkeys and a dog. And you can see they're feeding the monkeys there. Now this series is a paragraph by paragraph review of Ramana's seminal book, Who Am I? On to this week's reading, which is paragraph 22. Regulation of diet, restricting it to satvic food, taken in moderate quantity, is of all the rules of conduct the best, and it is most conducive to the development of the satvic qualities of the mind. These, in turn, assist one in the practice of Atma vichara, or enquiry in quest of the self. Now, Ramana talked about the three gunas. Here he was talking about the sattvic state. Guna means quality, attribute, characteristics. You are always one guna or another. This means in your thoughts and your actions, these are the kind of qualities that show. The three gunas are sattva, which is buoyant, illuminating, light, full of knowledge and happiness. There is rajas, which is agitation, stimulation, movable, mobile, pain, action. And then there's tamas, which is heavy, enveloping, dark, dull, indifferent, laziness, inert. This is an important point for a seeker. Make choices that contribute to your spiritual well-being. You can look at your life and see what makes your practice prosper and what does not. Then you can make new choices that support the practice. Make choices that are sattvic. A sattvic mind is what is needed for inquiry. My teacher, Nome, recommends that you periodically review your practice and see what's working and what is not. Then continue choosing what is working for you spiritually. Since I started regular practice, I've learned to make different choices. I see in my own practice and life that generally I am more sattvic. I have fewer times of agitation, rajas, or dullness, tamas. This provides a strong support to practice, being been sattvic more times than I was before. So what is working in your spiritual practice? What helps it? What seems to hinder it? What choices can you make to deepen your practice? What choices bring you to a more sattvic state? Is your own liberation important to you? If so, then you can make choices to support your liberation. Note that these understandings and practices are only preparation for deep spiritual inquiry. The gunas are for the body and mind. But Ramana asks, are you a body? Now on to our videos for the week. The first is man James Swartz. And I've known James Swartz for about 15 years. I first encountered him when I was with a friend near Arunachala, and it was an early time there, and we were lost in the forest. and I saw a big rock, maybe 10 feet tall, and there were two people on it. And we climbed up on the rock to ask him where we were and where to go. And it was James Swartz. And it turns out he knew of my teacher, Nome, and made the comment at that time, oh, Nome was the first one who started to teach of Ramana in America. Now, Nome had never said that, so I didn't have any idea, and it took going to India to find out. Anyway, it's interesting. Now, James Swartz gives Advaita Vedanta courses around the world now, and at that time, just in Tiruvannamalai, and Carol and I attended one of his courses. And it was interesting and worthwhile. Anyway, here he is going to be talking about what are the three gunas which control our life.
In this world, two basic dispositions prevail, the satvic and the rajasic tamasic. So we have three gunas and two types of people. So one type of person is predominantly satvic with a little bit of rajas and tamas. Those are your spiritual types. They tend to be satvic. And then the other type is what? The other type is rajasic and tamasic, basically. So that's the division between these two types. And how do you know if you're a satvic personality or not? How do you determine that? Well, you look at your values, and here are the characteristics and values of a satvic person. Fearlessness. Okay. Why are these people fearless? Yeah, because they know that there's nothing to fear. They know that the objects are empty because they have clear knowledge. Remember, sattva guna gives you clear knowledge. If your mind is predominantly sattvic, you won't be confused or deluded. You won't project or deny. The rajasic and tamasic types, they're always projecting, they're denying, and then they project. Those are the hallmarks of a rajas tamasic person. They don't want to see or acknowledge what they don't like or don't believe in, and they project something else in its place. You see, well, it's just every day. You see it in yourself operating all the time. Putting something, hearing something in somebody's words that isn't there, because you don't want to hear it. Arjuna did this to Krishna 2 or 3 times, didn't he? He didn't put anything there, but he purposely didn't hear. Well, if you're real rajasic, you will put something in the place of the truth, and you'll deny the truth. You don't want to face it. Like our President Bill Clinton. I did not have sex with that woman. That's what he said, remember? You probably, that was before your time, maybe. But when they got him in front of the commission, he did have sex with that woman, but he said on national television in front of 100 million people, I did not have sex with that woman. Well, now that's called denial. you willfully cover up some part of yourself. Generally, it's not willful. In his case, he was an accomplished liar. So, but most of us just unconsciously hide the things that we don't want to see about ourselves. That's a tamasic person. And then we project the problem on somebody else. And then we point the finger and we say, that's your problem. And you don't realize that when you point the finger at somebody, 3 of those fingers are pointing at you. Right? You go like this, huh? 3 fingers are pointing to you, but you're pointing over here. That means what? You can't face the facts about yourself, so you blame your wife, you blame your kids, you blame the government, you blame the church, you blame anybody, your boss, you blame your husband. It doesn't matter. You have there's always plenty of objects around that you can blame for your problems. This is the tamasic, rajasic type. That tendency is built in. Tamas hides and Rajas projects. So this is the primary psychological mechanism that's disturbing you. And you need to understand that and look for that. Pay attention to that. Okay? So he says, he's talking first about the satvic one. They're not fearful because why? They see things clearly. Rajas and tamas, your mind is what? Confused. You're always confused. So you can't see things clearly, so then you deny and you project. Anyway, clarity of mind, yes, we understand that. Why it's clear? Because there's no rajas in it. The mind is clear. It reflects awareness beautifully. So things are known. Right? And what? And it's not dull. It's not muddy and dull. So you see things clearly. Charity. These people are charitable. They're giving people. They're not taking people. They're not grabbing people. Rajasic, tamasic people are grabbing people. I want, I want, I want. Give me, give me, give me. What about me? In every situation, what about me? Well, these satvic people, they're happy to give because they're secure. Because they have knowledge. They're secure people. So they're generous people. They can give without feeling they're losing anything. Tamasic and rajasic people don't like to give because they feel they're losing. They don't see they're gaining by giving. They see they're losing by giving. So they're tight. They hold. They don't want to share their feelings with you. They don't want to share their thoughts with you. They don't want to share their time with you. They don't want to share their money with you. They don't want to share. Oh, no, no. It's all about me. I might lose something. There's fear there in these people. Tamas is fear. Why are you fearful? Because what? You're in the dark. There's a cloud over your consciousness. And when it's dark, what happens? If they turn out the lights here, immediately everybody will go, what's happening? And you'll think, oh, maybe there's a boogeyman, a thief behind the cabinet. When the lights are on, you wouldn't think there's somebody hiding in the cabinet going to steal something or hurt you, will you? But as soon as the lights go on, you start, oh my God, what's going on? Because you're fearful, because you can't see. So these people, their minds are cloudy and they're full of fear. Judicious restraint, that means they're able to what? Think about their desires and fears before they act. They're able to restrain themselves. It doesn't mean they don't have desires. It doesn't mean they don't act. It means they think about it before they act. Because they understand there are consequences for this. If you're clear, you'll think about the consequences of what you do before you do it. If you're rajasic, you won't. You'll just go do it. And then you'll have to pick up the pieces later. Then you'll collect karma later, and then you'll be agitated because you have to get karma. And you say, why am I getting this bad karma? And your mind will be so busy, you what? You say, that couldn't be my karma, and then you'll blame somebody, you'll project it on somebody else. All happen all the time. So these people can control themselves. They can think. Think it out. They're intelligent people. You should run your life by knowledge, not by your feelings. You should think deliberately and put forth actions intelligently, consciously act in every situation. Keeping in mind all the knowledge that you have, right? Self-knowledge and worldly knowledge. Put it all together and see what's reasonable, what's sensible, what's intelligent here. And if you got feelings telling you to do something, you should think twice about it. Understand? Otherwise, you're going to collect karma. You'll definitely collect karma, because if you disturb your environment, you disturb the people around you, then what? Boom, that'll come back on you. And you don't want it to come back on you. So, judicious restraint, a performance of sacred rituals. This is a sacred ritual. We're inquiring into God, into Brahman, into the self. And so this qualifies you as a satvic activity. Satvic people. You want to know the truth. You're truth lovers. It's great. It's lovely to see so many people who love the truth and will devote a week out of their life to what? Understanding the truth. It's a satvic quality. Alignment of thought, word, and deed. We discussed that earlier. Straight. Get what you think and what you feel and what you do should be all on the same page. Straight, steady, clear line between your thoughts and your actions. No crooked business. Absence of hurting. Why do satvic people not hurt? Because they have empathy, they have sympathy. They have good values. They're in harmony with Dharma. The number one what's the number one Dharma? What's the most important, highest Dharma of all?
Ahimsa.
Yeah, ahimsa. Non-injury. Non-injury in what? In thought, word, and deed. That's the number one value. And so because they know what it feels like to be hurt. Rajasic and tamasic people are so insensitive, they don't feel anything really. They're just too dull. So they injure people. They can be very cruel, in fact. Tamas can be very cruel people, and they'll torture you, but they won't feel anything. It's really, they'll just torture you. But they don't feel your pain. In fact, they get a little pleasure out of making your life miserable. It's a cruel, tamasic quality here. But the satvic people, they feel they understand, they sympathize, they empathize. So that's a real good quality. If you have a hard time feeling what other people are feeling, then what? It means you're lacking sattva. And you should try to what? Try to feel, try to empathize with people. Truthfulness, that's an obvious one. Renunciation, happy to get rid of things. They don't feel they're losing when they let go. They feel they're gaining when they let go. When you let go of something, you gain something. What? You gain peace. And they understand the upside of letting go of things. So they're not attached. Rajasic people are always attached. They always hang on to things. They've got raga. In fact, the word raga means attachment. They need things to what? To prop them up, to make them feel happy, to make them feel secure. So they won't let go of anything. They're tight. Can't let go. But these satvic people, what do? They're what? They can renounce. They can let go. That's the idea. So if you have that, that's a great quality. Let go of your idea. If your idea is not right, if it's not in harmony with the situation, if you see that you're not going to get what you want, drop your idea. You see it's not appropriate to think like this in a certain situation, then let go of your idea. But these tamasic people, they'll hold on to an idea till And they'll keep trying to force that idea on the situation over and over and over again and make you accept their idea. Even though it isn't going to work for them, they don't care. Rajasic people, the same story. Right? So they don't want to let go. Ability to resolve negative emotions. It doesn't mean satvic people don't have negative emotions. It means they what? They know how to what? Purify those emotions. What's the number one way to clean your emotions? Karma yoga. That's a
And next is Swami Sarvapriyananda. And the Swami is a great contemporary spokesperson for Advaita Vedanta, and he speaks to a wide variety of audiences. In this video, he is at the Harvard Divinity School, and his talk is Shocked by Advaita Vedanta, and you'll understand what he means once he gets into his talk.
Friends, I read somewhere that the famous physicist Niels Bohr, he said that if you are not shocked by quantum mechanics, you have not understood quantum mechanics. An acquaintance and friend of mine, Ankur Barua, who teaches Indian philosophy at Cambridge University, the other Cambridge, across the pond. So he begins his Advaita Vedanta class. His handout begins with, if you are not shocked by Advaita Vedanta, you have not understood it. I'm going to speak about a school of Vedanta. Akshar spoke about one school. I'm going to speak about another school, Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual Vedanta. Now, what is it that's so unique and strange and remarkable and even shocking about Advaita Vedanta? It's helpful to see what Advaita Vedanta is not. That gives us a good sense of what it is. Religion, the kind of religion we are most familiar with, and most of us study here at the Divinity School, is faith-based. So you are told by your tradition, by your books, by your teachers, that God exists, and you have to believe in God and surrender to God, and there are devotional practices. But notice, all of that is based on faith. It starts with belief, and it's belief which sustains you for a long time. And the problem with this approach is a very beautiful approach, and it's the most common approach. You find it across the religions of the world. The only problem with this approach is it's vulnerable to skepticism. It always has been, and especially in today's age. You just have to listen to a few minutes of Christopher Hitchens, bless his heart, and Richard Dawkins, and Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, to know what I'm talking about. To those who are much too emotionally involved, even to the point of fanaticism, I prescribe a course of Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens. As against this, there is another kind of religion, an experience-based religion. So it's not that you have to believe in something, but that these things, God and an immortal soul, and they can be experienced. This experience-based approach, I think this is what made Swami Vivekananda so popular when he came to this country in the late 19th century, to a land which thought of religion as faith. In fact, the most common word for religion even today is faith. He said that religion does not consist in believing doctrines, it consists in actually realizing the truths of religion. If God exists, I must be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it. The basic idea is that there are extraordinary experiences which are called mystic experiences, which, if you have them, they reveal to you the truths of religion. The claims of religion are validated by mystical experience. A classic text in the Indian tradition of this type would be the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It was no accident that Swami Vivekananda chose that as the first book to translate and publish from the Vedanta Society of New York, his famous Raja Yoga. It's based on the Yoga Sutras. But even here, that's not Vedanta either. That's not Advaita either, the path of mystical experience. Even the path of mystical experience, it can be critiqued. Suppose you have wonderful experiences, very spiritual experiences. A neuroscientist and a doctor can come and tell you that there's no doubt that you felt these things. We are not denying that. But it's just this little problem. You have a little tumor in your brain which is pressing against such and such nerve, and that's what's giving you these experiences. It does not really tell you that there is a God or an immortal soul or that we are all one. In fact, recently there was a very popular YouTube video about a neuroscientist. She got a stroke. And for some time, because of that hemorrhage in her brain, the experience was of a feeling of oneness, universal oneness. And she talks about it, and that talk became very popular. Many people have seen it. So that could be a critique, that no, mystical experience, we are not denying that you experience these things, but we can say that they don't really prove anything special to you. It just could be something neurological. So that's the way of mystical experience. Advaita Vedanta often is confused with this, but it is not a path of mystical experience. Now, let me be clear. I'm being too strict here. There is the room for faith in Advaita Vedanta. There is a room for mystical experience in Advaita Vedanta. But I want to get to the heart of Advaita Vedanta. And I think such exercises in drilling down are helpful to get at the core concept, after which you can build up again. So, no, Advaita Vedanta, classical Advaita Vedanta, is not a path of mystic experience either. What is it a path of? It's a path of knowledge. What do I mean by that? You see, mystic experiences, the problem with that is most of us don't have it. Even if they were valid and justified, and they are very valuable, but most of us don't have it. And it takes a long time and arduous practice to make a beginning on the path of mysticism in every religion of the world. What Advaita Vedanta says, not mystical experience, not faith, but take up experiences which are common to all of us. We all have these experiences. What experiences? Waking, dreaming, deep sleep. I mean, I hope you're all in the waking state right now, because Advaita Vedanta has a tendency of putting people to sleep. But these are experiences we all have every day. And that's all that is needed for Advaita Vedanta. Then you go to these texts, and they will guide you through a process of reasoning based upon experiences which we all have: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, the seer and the seen, the different layers of the human personality. We are all aware of our bodies, our breath, our mind, our intellect. We're all aware of it. That's all you need on this path. And the promises, the claim is, on the basis of these common experiences of humanity, we will start a process of enquiry, which will lead you to the core of Advaita Vedanta, the knowledge which Advaita Vedanta embodies, that we are one with the Absolute, that our reality is, and that we are one with God, to put it in a very broad sense, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Absolute, and that can actually be experienced, or more clearly, it can be realized. It's an existing reality, not accomplished. They say praptasya prapti, that which you already have attained, you attain it again. So this is Advaita Vedanta. At its heart, not a path of believing something, not a path of seeking extraordinary mystical experiences, but a path of a spiritual philosophical inquiry. And very quickly, I'm not saying Advaita says you can argue your way to God, not that kind, but reason is it takes you to the very verge, after which there is an intuitive jump that has to occur. The journey in Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in space. You're not going from here to there. Sometimes I see, when you're driving around the United States, you find these huge posters. Heaven is a place. Call 1800, something like that, So now what does that mean? It's very interesting. It's a place. That means it's not this place, it's that place, and you have to go there. Advaita Vedanta is not a journey in place. The Brahman, which we are speaking about, the absolute reality, it's there everywhere. It's there here and there too. It's not a journey in time. Again, some of the billboards will say, after death, very ominous, big letters, after death, you will see God. Call 1800, something, it will be written there. Now, but what's interesting is, after. After is a time word. Not now, then. So you have to wait through time. It's a journey through time. Advaita Vedanta is not a journey through time. It's not about something that's going to happen later. That reality which we are, which Advaita Vedanta is trying to point out about ourselves, is a reality now and then and every when, all the time. It's not a journey from us to something else. The reality which Advaita Vedanta speaks about is not an other, not something different from you. It's our own reality, not as we know ourselves. Because Advaita Vedanta claims that we are terribly, terribly mistaken about ourselves. Swami Vivekananda would often say, if only you knew yourselves as you really are. You know? So that's what Advaita Vedanta wants to say. It's not a journey from us to something else, journey from one object to another object or subject to some other object. Rather, it's a realization of the reality about ourselves. Not a journey in space, not a journey in time, not a journey from one object to the other. I'm sort of translating Hindi pravachans, the talks given by the acharyas of Vedanta in Hindi, Desha, Kal, Vastu. I'm translating that into English. So what is it a journey? What kind of spiritual journey does Advaita speak about? It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge. What kind of ignorance? Ignorance about our real nature. We do not know what we really are. To a knowledge of our real nature. A knowledge, of course, is a living reality and a vibrant, experienced reality. This is called spiritual realization. So this is the uniqueness of Advaita Vedanta. It's a delicate point to make, but if you think about it, you begin to see there's something really remarkable about what Advaita is trying to tell us. Vedanta for the 21st century. I'm careful about the time. I haven't started yet. That's why I was looking at the clock. Let me make a beginning. What can we say, what can Advaita give us in the 21st century? I'm going to share with you 3 big ideas, none of which are mine. I'm just sharing them with you. 3 big ideas for the 21st century from Advaita Vedanta. First, Advaita Vedanta and the hard problem of consciousness. Right now, in the last 20 years or so, and right now we are in the midst of a boom in consciousness studies, in research into consciousness, maybe prompted by the recent developments in technology and neuroscience. And it's a multidisciplinary subject. There are computer scientists who are interested in it, linguists and philosophers and psychologists and doctors and neuroscientists and brain scientists. So many people are interested in consciousness studies. The question is, what is consciousness? And it's a mystery. There almost every other day you find new articles coming up. There either be the mystery of consciousness, one kind of article, or the other kind of article would be consciousness explained, breaking news. I always call those articles consciousness explained away. What is consciousness? Why should it be a mystery? It's put very well by David Chalmers, who is the head of the Mind-Brain Consciousness Unit at NYU. He coined the term the hard problem of consciousness. Why is it so difficult? There are these easy problems, easy within quotes. They're not easy, but comparatively. What is going on in our brain is correlated to our conscious experiences. So I feel a pinprick, maybe a pain. And the brain scientist looks at what neurons are firing in my brain and correlates. Oh, those firing of those neurons is causing this pain. So it's a science of correlations. This kind of neuronal activity is related to this conscious event. That's one kind of consciousness studies. There is another kind. The hard problem of consciousness. How is it that we, all of us, sentient beings, have this inner movie playing within our heads all the time? Sights and sounds and smells and touch and thought. The Kena Upanishad, which we chanted at the beginning, the first verse starts with, impelled by what do our minds think? What is it? Impelled by what shining do we see? Do our eyes see? Do our tongues speak? What is that one thing which gives us all these first-person experiences? See, the question of the hard problem of consciousness, which has been formulated or reformulated in our times by David Chalmers, thousands of years ago, this very question, The Upanishad begins with this question. Advaita begins with this question and ends with its answer. Why should it be so strange? Think about it. If you just look at some of David Chalmers' TED Talks, you will see what he means. Think about it. None of the physical things here, this table, even this highly sophisticated computer, none of them have a second internal first-person state. Only us. There is something what it is like to be outside. You can see the person, but inside something is going on. Inside, not physically inside. That's also something that a doctor can check. But inside, in our minds, thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, questions. And it somehow feels like that. Even the most sophisticated machine, the most sophisticated computer does not have that. It has only one state, the physical state. You can thoroughly describe what is going on in terms of physics. Even our most esteemed colleagues across the street at Maxwell Dorkin, who come up with these fancy machines, none of them ever claims that the machines are conscious in any sense that we use. Even the most sophisticated ones. Imagine a Google self-driving car and you are driving your car and you turn the car at this corner and the Google car also turns along with you, doing exactly what you are doing. But there's something going on in your car which is not going on there. You, the feeling of driving and sound and decision-making, the tension in your body, the feel of it which you have, there is nothing corresponding to that in that Google car. How is it that we are conscious? There doesn't seem to be any space for that in a deterministic universe. So we are studying this. I'm taking this course on philosophy of mind at Emerson, and I'll let you into a secret. Those folks over there, very smart folks, they think most of us are zombies. In the sense, they really do. After Descartes, who posited that there are two kinds of things, the mental and the physical. You know the famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I exist. I'm a thinking being, and I'm related somehow to a material universe through a material body. The entire history of the philosophy of mind, which we are studying, Gilbert Ryle or Smart or Carnap, is a pushback against the possibility of mind, against the possibility of consciousness. Oh, there's no such thing as consciousness. What do you mean? When you're pricked with a pin and you shout, ouch, and you say, I'm feeling pain, that making a face and shouting out, that's pain. I say, no, that's just the behavior. Inside I'm feeling something. Oh, there's nothing like that. It's just that behavior. You might think they're crazy or something, or are they zombies? But that they mean it seriously. There's a whole school which seeks to explain away consciousness as behavior. Logical behaviorism, Gilbert Ryle, very smart people. I asked David Chalmers once, these very smart people who deny consciousness, don't they get it? Don't they get the question? So he was nice. He said that, Swami, they get the question, but they are reframing it in some other way. That's not the word he used, but they understand it in a different way. Galen Strawson, who is a brilliant philosopher, I hope to meet him someday, is at the University of Texas in Austin. He has written some very caustic articles about this. One is the silliest hypothesis. What is the silliest hypothesis? He says this the turn in philosophy of mind, trying to deny the existence of consciousness. That is the silliest hypothesis. So it's much more logical to think of ourselves as conscious beings having the experience of a material universe, and then you relate it. And David Chalmers, in fact, has come up with this idea of panpsychism, that consciousness is an all-pervasive, ubiquitous reality. Advaita Vedanta can contribute something there. I mean, almost all the time in the philosophy of mind class, I have this temptation of saying, no, I can solve this problem, but I restrain myself. But there are so many insights, not just in Advaita Vedanta, in Sankhya, Yoga, many schools of Buddhism, which can actually contribute. We can discuss some of them in the Q&A session. There was a conference, and people are beginning to recognize this. There was a conference in NYU. David Chalmers himself organized it. Advaita Vedanta and the Hard Problem of Consciousness. And there were 3 or 4 of the top people in the philosophy of mind whose articles we are reading now. They're present in the room. What happened later on, you can ask me, I'll tell you. Not much happened. So that's one thing. Advaita Vedanta and the Hard Problem of Consciousness, there's something to be done there. Okay, 2 minutes for two more big ideas. The second big idea I want to share is Advaita Vedanta and I'll call it the grand unified theory of religion. Just the outlines of it. The essence of Advaita Vedanta is Tattvamasi, that thou art. Now think about it. Religions of the world can be cleanly divided into these two categories. There are the that-centered religions. That-centered means God-centered religions. And Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Vaishnavism, Shaktaism, Shaivism, these are basically God-centered religions, that there is a God. There is the self-oriented or self-inquiry based religions. Buddhism comes to mind, yoga comes to mind, Sankhya comes to mind, Jainism comes to mind. So there are these two different kinds of religions and these two different approaches to spiritual life. In this room itself, if you ask, why am I interested in religion, those who are spiritual seekers, you'll get two kinds of answers. One is, I'm looking for God, I believe in God, I love God, I'm searching for God, that's centered. The other one is, well, God is fine, but I'm more interested in who am I? An inquiry into myself, a self-inquiry based approach. Tat and Tvam, that and thou. Very quickly, that-centered religions have the deep problem with that is that's based entirely on belief. God is fine, but the question is, does God exist? That's the whole question. That's the whole problem with the that-centered approach. That's why you will find in those religions enormous efforts to prove the existence of God. That problem is not there with the self-inquiry based religions. Nobody doubts, including Descartes, that whether I exist or not. There's a certainty about that. But the problem with the self-inquiry based approach is our existence is certain. But that's the problem. Our existence, certain existence, is surrounded by suffering and sorrow. What Advaita Vedanta does is it relates the two. Our certain existence is shown to be infinite by the process of Advaita inquiry. The third point, I will not make it because there are two speakers who are going to actually speak about it. Shweta Chaitanya ji will speak about that point, ethics and Advaita Vedanta, and I highly recommend Professor Rambachan's book, Hindu Theology of Liberation, which is about how Advaita Vedanta can be applied to today's problems. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now we'll listen to Nome as Nome talks about one of the things that Swami talked about, and that is the Hindu teaching Tattvamasi.
In the Vedas, specifically the Chandogya Upanishad, the instruction is given Tattvamasi, that you are. That is Brahman, that is the real self. And the instruction is, that is what you are. Similarly, we find elsewhere in the Upanishads, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. And also, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. There are similar statements in the Vedas and elsewhere, expressive of the truth of what we really are. The highest, being, consciousness, bliss, is our own nature. To realize it conclusively, one has only to be rid of misidentification, the attachment of oneself to something that is not the self. In its crudest form, such delusion manifests as attaching one's innate happiness to some object. thinking that the happiness is dependent on the object. And if the object goes elsewhere, our happiness has gone elsewhere. One of those objects is the body. But if we confound ourselves and mix up our identity, thinking our being is the body, and our happiness is dependent on the state of the body, then we will suffer, needlessly, but we will suffer. The suffering being merely an absence, or a veiling, rather, of the happiness. Similar is it with the misidentification with what one thinks. If you consider yourself to be what you think, then your state changes as your thinking changes. If you are the mind or are in the mind, the immaculate, innate freedom of the infinite consciousness, which is our real nature, you are that, is veiled. The truth, the happiness, the consciousness, do not go elsewhere, no more than you ever cease to exist. But ignorance acts like a veil. It is merely a case of imagination. If that imagination can be put an end to, by any means, that which is innate, our own true self, shines. Well, again, it's always shining, it's always existing. Just as you always exist, and you always know you exist. And the fact that you are, and the knowledge that you are inseparable. Never is there a time when you are not. And never is there a time when you lose the knowledge that you are. But whatever has, through imagination, been added onto that, so that seemingly what you are and the knowledge that you are is dependent on some other thing, the thing that's been added on, to that degree, ignorance fails. What is to be done? Inquire deeply. Inquire deeply and abandon the wrong association of yourself with any object. Anything objective, from a subtle thought to the form of your own body. If we pursue such inquiry, who am I? The ideas of I and my connected with other things, something imagined to be broken off in the midst of vast, limitless being, which is what we really are. Such imagination ceases. Even the idea, expediently used for purposes of spiritual instruction, that one is in ignorance and later one is out of ignorance, is not entirely true. Who are you? Who are you always? That which is called Brahman, the vast absolute, that which is called the self, the only self that you really are, that which is called God, beyond which there is nothing else. That is our very existence. Treat it as something else, as something distant from you, or as a particular state of mind, and it will seem to be elsewhere, or that it will seem to come and go. Set aside the objective outlook. Make your inquiry non-objective. Detach yourself from false transitory appearances. And know yourself as you really are. then you find the indestructibility of the knowledge of truth is just the fact of your very being.
Now we will take a few minutes and meditate, inquire. Breathe in and breathe out. Notice the breath as it comes in, as it goes out. Take long, slow breaths. And now inquire, investigate within yourself. Am I a body? Ramana says that misidentification with the body is chief among misidentifications, and that you can get rid of, if you can get rid of this idea, then other misidentifications will be much easier to resolve. One approach to this is to see that the body is always objective to you, known by you. You are the knower, not the known. Since I'm not the body, any attribute of the body is not mine. If I'm not a body, how can I be a doer? The body acts, the body does. Do I? Who am I? All right, we'll end with a short chant. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. If this satsang was of interest to you, I have more for you: a free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on the screen next. These satsangs will continue in the coming weeks with this series based on the Ramana Maharshi book, Who Am I? Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you.